Welcome to podcast 31 in the series of Who Let the Master Out. I mentioned in my last podcast that Spirit urged me to share experiences that I have had with love energy because it wants us to witness that more is accessible to us. So much more. And the more we talk about the many ways love energy expresses itself in the physical realm, the more room we give it to expand. We all have the ability to experience love energy here. It's just a matter of quieting our fears to see it more clearly and hear it more loudly. From around 13 years old or so and into my 20s, I spent time in non-denominational Holy Spirit-filled churches. And this allowed me to be more open to the supernatural. There was what was called speaking in tongues, where a message came through someone to the congregation in an unknown tongue, and usually followed an interpretation in a language that we could all understand. It was the message from God to us. Other times, we were visited by people who had what they called the gift of prophecy, and they shared knowledge and wisdom, things that they heard from the Holy Spirit. There was also laying on of hands where people were healed and sometimes would even collapse because the power that was coming through to them seemed to overwhelm their physical bodies and they would fall back under that power. And there were times where I felt like an invisible light wind of electricity move through the building, feeling the unseen. In my book, Coming Back from Fear, I shared a significant experience I had when I was 22. I was visiting a Pentecostal church in Corpus Christi with a friend of mine, and its pastor, who had never met me before that night, had a message from God for me that he shared in front of the entire congregation. Many amazing things happened that evening, but two things stand out right now for me to share. The first is that the theme of the pastor's message he had presented to the congregation that night was love. So perfect. The sermon was on 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is known by some as the love chapter. When you look at this love as the unconditional love that we can find inside ourselves, it changes how we look at things. Some of the things it says in the chapter, and I'm totally paraphrasing this in my own words with my own understanding, are 1, when I speak without unconditional love, my words are just noise. 2, though I might have knowledge and education or the confidence to make big things happen in the physical world, without unconditional love, it is empty. It doesn't bring lasting contentment. 3, and if I make sacrifices and give away myself and my possessions, if it isn't done with unconditional love, it won't amount to much, because things given with expectation will usually end up in disappointment. 4, unconditional love sparks patience, because everything is perfect right now. Unconditional love is not in any rush to get anywhere specifically or to change anyone, trying to make them do what we think they are supposed to do. Unconditional love sparks kindness because it has nothing it needs besides itself, so it is not afraid of lack. It knows it has everything it could ever need right now, and nothing can take unconditional love away. Unconditional love does not need to prove it is better than anyone else or compare itself to anyone else, because it sees everyone as perfect and equal. Number 5, when I was born here, I took on the rules that were given to me, and I accepted them blindly. But as I become an adult, I can question those rules and seek unconditional love instead of conditional love. Number 6, we are all mirrors for each other. If I am remembering the unconditional love being that I am, then I see the unconditional love being in others. If I see something else, then I am in the world of conditional love, and that is all I will see around me. And number 7, in this world, we experience faith, hope, and unconditional love. But the greatest of these is unconditional love, because it is at the core of everything. So the second thing I wanted to share is what happened after the Sermon of Love. During the closing worship songs, the pastor was flooded with the Holy Spirit. He began shaking under the power, and an unknown language flooded out of his mouth. We had bowed our heads and closed our eyes in reverence for the message the pastor was about to bring to us from God. Now, I was a bit shocked when I heard him ask what the name of the young man was in the corner, because when I looked up, he was looking right at me. Now, my friend's mother, a couple people down from me, shared my name, and the pastor, who I had never met before, proceeded to let me know that God had a message for me in front of his congregation of a couple hundred people. A few days earlier, I had prayed to the Creator to forgive me and show me his will for my life. I want more details about all that. You can check out my book or the previous podcasts on coming back from fear. But after this prayer, a couple days later, in front of all these people, out of the pastor's mouth came the words, "My son, I have forgiven you, and I will reveal my will for your life. Just keep seeking after me. You will feel the fire of my healing power this night." And that is when I lifted my hands to God and was flooded with a strong surge of unconditional love energy. It was electric. It was warm. It's hard to explain the feeling in words, but the closest thing I could come to it was saying it's like a huge hug that envelops you. You feel safe. You have no fear. And you have no need of anything else. And that experience was just the tip of the iceberg. And it marked the beginning of so much more. In the next episodes, I'm going to begin to tell you the tales of love energy and how it began to emerge in my life more and more. But until then, break the cycle, be free, and be big, because we're all giants in a world full of giants who are taught from the very beginning that we're weak and that we're small. But it's time to rise. We're beginning to let our master out.